Cheers.
Cheers.
That was not bad.
Oh, let's do this.
Hello.
Hi.
So today we are going to be doing a Tequila Mockingbird, and if you don't know what our book that we are choosing today, it's pretty obvious. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. So we're doing the Tequila Mockingbird. We are chasing it with a pickle. That was not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Okay, so tequila, damn it, to kill. I'm gonna keep saying Tequila Mockingbird, instead of To Kill a Mockingbird. But so we did tequila. It follows a young girl named Scout who is growing up in the town of Macomb. I think she starts off like really young.
She's learning how to be a woman and an adult through her older brother Jem, and through her father, and through everybody in Macomb. And there's, oh gosh, there are like 15 different plot lines that ensue in this story. But the main one is that her dad's a lawyer. He hasn't really gotten a lot of good cases in a while, and one of the cases that he has is Tom Robinson.
Yeah, so basically her father Atticus is representing Tom Robinson, who is a black man in a rape case. So it is trying to navigate this situation in which they are in a small town in the South, and there is still a lot of racism, a lot of segregation still happening, and basically, Scout is just trying to figure out where she stands in this, what she believes, what other people around her believe, and kind of navigate, like, what she wants to be when she grows up. So it's like one of those things where she is learning how to be in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of themes there.
It's very coming of age.
Very
coming of age, but in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
So overarching themes. Obviously, one of the biggest one is going to be racism because of the case that is happening. One of the biggest things that they're dealing with is basically an innocent man who, it doesn't outright say he's innocent, but everyone kind of knows he's innocent. Yep. So it's this innocent man going against this white family, and he's being accused of rape of Mayella. Mayella Yule.
Mayella Yule. Yeah.
So he is facing these accusations, and he's kind of having, like, the whole entire town is kind of having to figure out where they stand and what they want to stand for. He gets convicted. The town makes the wrong decision. The jury. And
it is known, and that's the funny thing is, in this book, people are very aware of, like, no, it's probably just...
It's just because he's black.
It's literally just because he's black. So it deals with a lot of very hard issues, but there are also a lot of, like, light points within it. Another theme that, like, kind of deals with the racism is also, like, fairness, because a lot of the beginning part of the novel has to do with Scout and her brother Jem literally, like, fighting, or Scout will fight with other kids, and it's having to deal with trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong and how's it fair.
I also think that the way that it combats it is because it is telling it from a young girl's perspective.
Yeah.
There's this innocence to it to where you're kind of learning along with her.
Yeah.
So she has no idea what is happening, and that's kind of the beautiful part of it, is she is coming in with a completely open mind. And even though she takes things that are, she learns things that are going around in her town, she also tries to keep an open mind and, like, face this stuff with a new perspective. And luckily she does have her really kind-hearted dad, and she has Cal. She has Cal. So she gets to see a lot of different perspectives, which honestly a lot of people in the South did not have originally.
Yep.
So we get to see it through kind of a few different eyes, which is really cool. So we also have a theme of connectedness, and someone we haven't talked about yet is Boo Radley. There's this obsession around him.
Yeah.
And I think it's, like, partly because she is a young kid and there's, like, this intrigue.
Yeah.
But there is this obsession that she has and her brother has with Boo Radley because they've never seen him. So he's one of their neighbors, and they know all of these stories about him, and they know kind of why he always stays in his house, but they've never seen him, and they don't know what the truth is versus what is common gossip. So there is this weird obsession that they have with him, where they basically start, like, telling stories and making up their own, like, house.
Yeah.
Featuring him, where they pretend to be him, and it's super cute. But we also have Boo Radley, and there's like this strive to connect with him. And then also we learn later in the story that he also has that feeling to connect with them as well. Oh, he's such a good character.
He's such a good character.
I love him. We'll talk more about him in a second.
I was going to say, you want to jump into
favorite characters?
Favorite?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I think one of my top favorites is Miss Maudie. I mainly just think of her as like this sweet old grandma, and I want her to be my grandma.
I was just thinking the same thing.
I just think that like for her age and the way that they describe her, she is so loving and accepting, and like there's this dichotomy between her and Miss Dubois.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's so mean. I think so. Yeah, there's like,
she gets some redemption,
foils.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But they're literally, they are literally foils. That's a great way to describe them, because they are about the same age. They have, some similar situations, but like Miss Maudie is like this sweet old lady, and then Miss Dubois is just this real. And then my all-time favorite, I think, is probably Dill. Oh, I actually hated Dill in the beginning because I was like, this little kid is such a liar.
Ridiculous.
He's such a little liar.
He is. He's over the top.
He lies about everything. But he's a storyteller. As a writer myself, like, we're all liars. And it's such a kid thing to do. But I think the real thing that solidified it for me was in the courthouse when he literally has to go outside because he's crying and he feels sick because he knows that this situation is probably going to go wrong for him and it's not fair. Even Scout kind of has this moment where she's like, but he's just a black man, like almost like dehumanizing him, and he's like, no, like he is a man. And so that was so, sorry, I'm gonna get a little teary-eyed. That was such a beautiful moment, and I think Scout learned a lot from that situation.
Would you say that Dill is like a good resounding end character who kind of like wraps everything up?
I think so. Like, Dill is also a learner, if that makes sense. He's about the same time, like about the same age as Scout, and he kind of makes the same mistakes that she does and kind of is learning where he stands. And I think that moment where he decides where he stands is like, you really feel with him.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is because in our shot, we had to chase it with a dill pickle, which was our end taste, so. But yeah. So my favorites are Miss Maudie. Of course, we went over how great she is, but also Atticus, because Atticus he is such a great dad. He is a single
I would so
dad.
marry Atticus.
But he's incredibly smart. He teaches his kids so well, and he's so forward with them about like hard-hitting issues. He's not trying to parent them or telling them like little white lies here and there. And he sets up Jem and Scout so well growing up as, you guys just need to be honest, you need to be level-headed, and he goes about it in like a very lawyer way, but he does it so kindly that I love Atticus. He's such a sweet guy, and he is just all around an amazing character in the story. But I also like from there Uncle Jack, because he's like the fun uncle. He just like hangs out and just like loves his niece and his nephew, and he like wants to be such a part of their lives, even though he is like only real love in his life is his cat. Like, it's so, he just like makes my heart so happy. But there are so many good characters.
He is also like one of those learners. Like, he is a student, and there's a point where he takes criticism from a little girl and he takes it to heart. He takes it. And I think that anyone who does that is a good character. Anyone who can like actually like change and you can see it actually be positive. Okay, so shot number 2.
Okay, let's do this. Cheers.
So, least favorite characters.
Oh, so many.
Okay, so obviously, my first one, I feel like you can't have least favorite characters. My ears just got so hot.
Alcohol, man.
Oh my god. So you can't have least favorite characters without saying Bob Yule, because he's just a real bitch.
Ooh, makes me so mad.
He's like, okay, so
Such
he's
an
like,
asshole.
I feel like one of those uncles that you're ashamed of.
Okay, but the thing is he is, because he was one of the people depicted as like a drunk, right? Like, he's just an asshole. So he's a drunk. He beats women.
His daughter. He sexually assaults his daughter.
He sexually assaults his daughter and he beats her. He follows women and catcalls them. He is like the epitome of the grossest man that you can possibly think of. He also lives in like filth. He's at the lowest of the low.
He is.
He irks me.
going away from Bob because I hate talking about him.
My God, he's gross. Anyway, we need to move on.
I don't like Miss Caroline. Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
When she is first, like...
asshole. Wait, Mr. Teacher, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, she's an asshole and an asshole to kids.
She's a bad teacher.
Oh, she's an awful teacher. We just learned about... Oh, gosh, she's gonna kill me. What's it called?
In Hogwarts? We're taking a Harry Potter class together.
We're taking a Harry Potter class right now. Anyway, it's about, and I know you're listening, it's about how teachers teach, and I can't think of the word for it right now.
Oh, shit. Pedagogy.
The pedagogy.
Pedagogy.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The pedagogy of how Miss Carolyn teaches is awful. She demands that Scout doesn't learn outside of class. That's awful. That is so, like, that is up.
Well, she also believes that her way is the best way. Like, she's like, oh, your father doesn't know how to teach, so you need to not learn how to read from him and only learn how to read from me. So it's like this weird superiority that she has. Like, I have a degree. I am a teacher. There
are as many bad characters as there are good characters.
It's all about balance.
Equal foils. Fairness. The theme of fairness here. One of my least favorite characters is Francis, Scout and Jem's cousin.
Oh, him.
He's an asshole. He's like a straight up asshole. Anyway, so this book, I don't think we even said, so it was written in the 60s, so there's a lot of language that 2020 vocabulary is not a fan of.
And we will not be using.
But he does call Scout as well as Atticus, right? Or was it just Atticus?
He starts with Atticus, but he aims it at her of like, your dad is this thing, and it is not okay, and it's not cool, and okay, I get it. It's kids hearing what their parents say and thinking that they know more than like what their parents have to say. So like, I know that he is literally hearing these things and just repeating them because he's like, it gets this reaction, it gets this kind of thing, it has this effect on people, but the thing is he's a about it. And then he goes after, I just remembering, he goes after Scout and he decides to like rat on her after she pummels him, which I'm not saying is fair, but it does some justice. He deserved it.
He slightly deserved it. In that scene, Scout takes the blame for what Francis said, and then Uncle Jack comes in to try to be a good like uncle figure.
I'm so feeling it already.
I know. I'm like, ooh, we're definitely feeling it.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, so I just hit myself in the face.
And I'm so hot.
Oh my gosh, I'm so warm right now. Okay, but yeah, Francis is an asshole. He goes into it. He literally, I want to punch him in the face. This kid's probably like 6 at the time, and I just hate him. He only shows up for one scene. Hate him all the way. Anyway, moving on. Aunt Alexandria, she shows up with Francis, and she is like, loves that kid to death because he's a little tattletale, and so she adores him. And then Aunt Alexandria moves in later and decides to say, Scout, you need to be a woman. Off, Aunt Alexandria. Let her live her life. Don't tell her that she can't wear overalls, because she can. It's the 1960s, okay? Women can wear pants. God, get over yourself.
But she does kind of redeem herself. Because in the end, she knows, like, without even like thinking about it, when Scout and Jem are in that, situation, that accident, well, it's not an accident, they're attacked.
When they're attacked,
she immediately gives Scout her overalls because she knows that's her source of comfort. So like, I feel like she does have a little bit of redemption in the end, but just this lead up to it is like this moment where you want to hate her.
Okay, I'm gonna bring in some like real world content at the time. We love redemption
a little bit.
We love redemption for bad characters because you know what? They deserve it too. They can turn around and they can become a better person. Okay, so Boo Radley is symbolized as figuratively, he's as tall as a tree, and there's the tree where he hides all of his goodies to give to Jem and Scout.
I put the tree in here too.
Okay, good. I'm glad you noticed because I remember the tree and I thought the tree was a lot bigger of a thing. I genuinely was like, the tree, it's gonna be important, and then it gets filled up with cement. Spoiler. But but I genuinely was like, oh yeah, the tree, something important about the tree. And then he gets identified as a tree, and I just was like, trees. What do trees mean? What is so symbolic about trees?
Well, they also, the climax of it, I guess, happens underneath the tree. Like, they get attacked when they're under the tree.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the first time they see Boo Radley, because he comes to their rescue.
Yeah.
But I feel like that also goes along with the theme of connectedness. Like, because they were both, like, separated in their own, like, spots of life, like, this was this moment where they were able to connect. And that's how they connected, was through the tree. So, like, Boo would leave them little gifts, and they would take them.
Hitting back on the theme of connectedness.
Yeah, and so, like, there's, like, this weird connectedness that they feel together, and they feel it through that tree, like, almost like they planted roots together. Whoa,
dude, you thought so much more into that. I was like, trees are important, trees, we tree. And then I was like,
this is the first time they meet over here. They meet under this tree, and while the circumstances aren't good, like, it is something to be thought about.
Yeah.
I also think that the Radley house is a really big symbol in general.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
It's this uncharted territory. No one's ever been inside. No one's been invited. It's very closed off, very silent. There's so much fear surrounding it. And I think that that's also symbolic of this situation with the segregation that's happening. So the house is uncharted territory also as the city. Like, the city is going into this new section where they are wondering whether or not to fight for African American rights. And so Atticus is kind of the one who's leading this leading this situation, not leaving. He's leading this situation of, like, he is actually, you know, fighting for an African American man and trying to prove that he's innocent, and all the other town is kind of standing back wondering what's going to happen. And we do see that for the first time in a really long time, like, people are open to it. Especially since the jury takes so long to make their decision.
Yeah.
When normally that would have been made in 5 minutes. So it's kind of this uncharted, it's representing this uncharted territory that the town is now moving into.
But no, it's just like, so Scout learns about that. She learns about rape. She learns about, like, a bunch of other things along the way that it's like, it's all uncharted territory. I know, so did I. I literally apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. The fact that straight out she's asking her dad, what's rape? I'm like, whoa, you're like 11? That's insane. Like,
but it's nice that she feels safe to be able to ask him these questions.
About these things. Yeah, and so that's the thing is, like, I never knew what rape was at 11. I don't even think I even...
And if I did, I didn't ask my parents.
Yeah, I don't even think I asked anybody. I just was like, oh, that's a word. Scout is learning that, like, oh, races exist. Like, this is insane. I never thought, like, she never thinks twice about Calpurnia, like, literally living in their house. She can read well. She can do all of these things. And she's just like, whoa, wait a second. But, like, it's hard to convict the Yules because he has a name in the town, whereas Tom Robinson is just, like, he's an employee of somebody. And it's very easy to just be like, it's fine, he's a black man, he does all this stuff.
We also didn't even talk about his employer. What's his employer's name? I forgot it, but his employer is such a nice man as well, because in the middle of the court, he stands up for him.
Yes, he does.
After that, he still hires his wife. Once Tom Robinson passes away, he hires his wife even though he doesn't have a need for her, just knowing that this will help her in the long run.
Yep.
And he protects her.
He protects her, but there's also, what was it? The man who marries a black woman and pretends to be drunk. He is, like, one of the most honest. Forgot to mention, he is also one of my favorite characters. He's mentioned for about a brief second, but he literally is mentioned as having, like, a relationship with a black woman, and he pretends to be drunk. He drinks Coca-Cola out of a brown paper bag so that people will think, oh, the reason that he's acting this way is drunk, because he knows it's easier to just do that than to try to come out to people who will separate him from his community, who will distance him, and then he knows that it's probably affecting his wife and his children, but he's trying to make it the best that he can because he knows that society at the time is not going to change as much as he wants to. And I cannot talk about how great this book is and how we should all be reading it. And to speak of the book, To Kill a Mockingbird, the reason that I also highlighted and underlined when they had spoken about the reason about why you don't kill a mockingbird is because a mockingbird doesn't do anything. A mockingbird just sits and sings, and it does nothing but look pretty and sing. And that's why you don't kill a mockingbird, because when Jem and Scout get guns for the first time, Atticus tells them directly, you can shoot almost anything, because I have a feeling you're going to shoot a bird. Do not shoot a mockingbird.
That's the biggest sin.
Because it's the biggest sin. Speaking of symbols, I'm wrapping this all up. Speaking of symbols, I related Boo Radley to a mockingbird because Boo Radley just sits there, he doesn't do anything, and yet he is contradicted and thought to be shot at multiple times by people because of rumors that were spread. And so he was thought of as like this big, bad, angry, scary thing, but he's not. He just sits there and he watches. I mean, as creepy as it sounds, he watches Scout and Jem, but he does it from a very, like, loving perspective as, like, he wants to befriend them.
So in the end, basically, when Scout, like, walks Boo Radley to his house after he saves her and, like, lets him off there, she's walking back and she thinks about, you know, this moment in her life and what her life looked like a few years ago. And they're talking about, like, what she did when she was younger. She's thinking about what she stood for when she was younger and what she looks like now. But she's talking about it from the perspective of Boo Radley, and she refers to them, like her and Jem, as like his kids. And I think that that's also...
Sorry, I was like, it was a mini burp, but I was like, oh, it'll pass.
She is thinking about like what he probably saw from his window of like them playing together, of that summer when they were pretending to be him, of the winter when they shivered out in front of the gate and tried to break in. So it was just like she kept seeing these things from his eyes, and then she put winter, his children shivered at the front gate, silhouetted against the blazing house. Winter and a man walked into the street, dropped his glasses, and shot a dog. And then it goes down a little bit later, autumn again, and Boo's children needed him. So I think that there's like this really sweet thing where like they connected without ever like even knowing each other. They had never met. But there was this feeling that they were one. And because of that, like, he came to their rescue, and she knew exactly who he was.
Yeah. She never worried about it. The 2 times that Boo Radley had come by, Scout had never even thought twice about it. He had been there, and he'd been an overarching, like, I guess, like, what is
all
it? Like
her fear dissipated. Like,
yeah.
I think after the moment where he covered her in the cloth, like, she didn't fear him anymore.
Yep. And she didn't even know. She didn't even know that it was him. What are we rating this?
Okay.
I have rated it a 4.5 star. Because I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I did. I thought it was going to be such a drag. I remember going back, briefly, I remember reading this in high school and thinking, okay, we got Scout, we got Boo Radley. They're the 2 main pro-con villain hero thing, whatever. And then we have a court meeting, and I was like, what is Boo Radley gonna do in court? I forgot so many things. So going back, it definitely helped me out, and there were so many different things. There was so much I learned. There was so much, like, rereading it as an adult that I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So 4.5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I would reread it 1,000%.
Yeah, see, when I read it in high school, I actually rated it a 3.5 stars. Because I was super sheltered and I didn't really get a lot of it. I feel like I was like, I hadn't read a lot of literature by then, and I was like, this is just kind of boring, and I don't want to read about a little girl. I was a little girl. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But now that I'm older and I read it, I gave it a 5 stars. I was like, this is so beautiful, and there were so many themes that I did not understand that I now feel like I can grasp so much better now that I'm an adult. I kind of grew with Scout in this moment where I was like, this is where I felt when I was in high school, and this is kind of where I stood. Cool. And now that I'm an adult and I've had more education and I've learned a little bit, I kind of see a little bit more about it. So I felt like that was a really cool moment for me, so obviously I had to rate it 5 stars. And on that note, we are going to be wrapping this up. So you've heard our rating. I gave it a 5 stars. Rayanne gave it a 4.5 because I'm just a little bit better than her.
Oh my gosh! That is hardcore, but okay, alright.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so sorry. We're a mess.
We're a complete mess right now. But anyway, make sure to, do the whole, subscribe thing.
Like it.
And on that note,
cheers!
Cheers! Bye!